2022 quarterback draft class, an unmitigated disaster. And I guess it's fitting that the one guy that is still starting is the last guy who was drafted in the entire 250-plus selection process, Brock Purdy. Everyone else, and I remember the run-up to the draft, because, you know, every year we focus on quarterback. Well, that year was just a bad year. And Kenny Pickett was the first one taken. Done. Desmond Ridder. And you know, Sims, to his credit, he didn't like any of these guys. He really didn't. Like, there was talk at one point about the Panthers maybe taking Kenny Pickett in round 1. He said, what's going to happen when Kenny Pickett shows up and Sam Darnold's there at offseason workouts and Sam Darnold's throwing lasers and Kenny Pickett's just kind of like, okay. I mean, there's nothing that Kenny Pickett does that you look at and say, this guy's special at an NFL level. And none of these other guys had anything that you look at and say, this guy's special. And the last two, still with the team, Skylar Thompson and Brock Purdy, and both of them started a playoff game. Now, Thompson didn't earn it. He was playing because of injury, but still, the last two guys taken that year.
Brock Purdy was too at first.
Well, that's true, but now Purdy's like the guy that's going to get paid a lot of money after the year. But what a disaster 2022 quarterback draft class was.
Yeah, sometimes the analysts get it right, you know, where I remember the same as you. There was no excitement over the quarterback class in 2022, and then it ends up like this, where, I mean, you can look at that list and say, well, is Bailey Zappi the most successful quarterback? Yeah. Is Sam Howell? Like, I mean, my gosh, like, that's not good. You know, Desmond Ridder not only was traded from the Falcons, he couldn't even make the Cardinals. He's getting beat out by Clayton. Name that tune. So, yeah, this was a bit of a disaster of a quarterback class. Brock Purdy really the one that saves it. And, you know, at a certain point, it's like, man, you don't know what the things are going to be. But my gosh, this one is really ugly.
Desmond Ridder is the ultimate example of a guy who has every possible intangible that football coaches love. Mm-hmm. And they thought they could figure out how to get him to do all the other stuff that you need to do tangibly in order to be a great quarterback, and it just didn't work. And it didn't work for most of those guys, but it is working for Brock Purdy and Skylar Thompson. Hey, he's the guy that survived the cut. Mike White gone. Skylar Thompson will be the backup to Tua Tagovailoa, and even though his services weren't needed last year, we'll see. The lighter, skinnier Tua might have a harder time getting through all 17.
Every year, the NFL draft represents a crucial turning point for teams, a high-stakes gamble where the future of franchises is often defined by a single decision. Especially when it comes to quarterbacks, the pressure is enormous. These young men are expected to be leaders, the faces of their teams, the catalysts for success. The hopes and dreams of entire fan bases rest on their shoulders. But in 2022, the stakes were even higher. Teams desperate for a savior, fans eager for a new beginning. Yet, as the selections were made, a troubling realization began to take shape. This draft class, far from being filled with the next great stars, was about to become a cautionary tale. And soon that realization became undeniable. Kenny Pickett, hailed as the most NFL-ready quarterback of the class, was the first to hear his name called. The Pittsburgh Steelers, a franchise known for its storied history and demand for excellence, selected him 20th overall. But what was expected to be the beginning of a new era has turned into a harsh lesson in unmet expectations. Pickett's journey has been anything but smooth. Critics pointed to his lack of a standout trait at the NFL level: no laser arm, no elite mobility, nothing that screamed franchise quarterback, and as the season wore on, it became painfully clear that these concerns were not misplaced. The pressure of replacing a legend like Ben Roethlisberger only added to the weight on Pickett's shoulders, and the cracks began to show early. Then there's Desmond Ridder. The Atlanta Falcons took a chance on him in the third round, believing in the intangibles that scouts and coaches so often fall in love with. Leadership, poise, work ethic. Ridder had them all. But what he didn't have was the ability to translate those traits into on-field success at the professional level. Ridder's time in Atlanta was brief, a testament to how quickly the NFL moves on from those who can't perform. Even after being traded to the Arizona Cardinals, his struggles continued. Unable to secure a roster spot, He was outplayed by a rookie, Clayton Tune, a player who was never expected to be anything more than a backup himself. For Ritter, the fall from grace was swift and brutal. But while Pickett and Ritter were faltering, one player was quietly defying all expectations. Brock Purdy, the last player chosen in the 2022 draft, known as Mr. Irrelevant, was never expected to make a significant impact, but in the world of sports, expectations can be deceiving. Purdy wasn't just fighting for a roster spot, he was fighting to prove that he belonged in the NFL. Against all odds, Purdy emerged not just as a competent quarterback, but as a leader for the San Francisco 49ers. He led his team deep into the playoffs, delivering performances that belied his draft position. Purdy's success wasn't a fluke, it was the result of grit, determination, and an undeniable football IQ. And now, as he looks towards a future that includes a substantial contract, Purdy stands as the only true success story of this quarterback class. In a draft class defined by disappointment, Brock Purdy is the exception that proves the rule. His story is a reminder that talent and opportunity can come from the most unlikely places. Skylar Thompson, another late-round selection, is one of the few quarterbacks from this class who still remains on an NFL roster. His journey, however, is far less celebrated than Purdy's. Thompson has found himself in the backup role for the Miami Dolphins, a position that, while secure, is a far cry from the expectations placed on NFL quarterbacks. Thompson's career is a testament to the harsh realities of the NFL. Injuries to starting quarterbacks often create opportunities for backups, and that's how Thompson got his chance. Yet, despite these brief appearances, his role remains that of an understudy. With the departure of Mike White, Thompson is now the primary backup to Tua Tagovailoa, a role that keeps him in the league but far from the spotlight. For Thompson, survival in the NFL is an achievement in itself, but it also underscores the overall mediocrity of this draft class. When a late-round pick becomes a team's best option off the bench, it's a clear sign of how low the bar has been set. And as we examine the broader picture, the failures become even more apparent. When historians look back at the 2022 NFL Draft, the quarterback class will be remembered as one of the greatest disappointments in recent memory. Despite the hopes, despite the hype, nearly every quarterback from this draft has failed to meet the expectations placed upon them. Brock Purdy's success cannot erase the failures of his peers. Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ritter, and others like Matt Corral and Malik Willis were all seen as potential franchise quarterbacks. Today, they are reminders of how quickly potential can evaporate under the intense pressure of the NFL. Even those who have survived, like Skylar Thompson, have done so in roles far below what was expected of them. In the end, the 2022 quarterback draft class is a cautionary tale for teams and fans alike. It's a reminder that in the NFL, the road from college star to professional success is fraught with peril. And for these quarterbacks, the journey has been more treacherous than anyone could have predicted. As we conclude, the lessons from this draft year should serve as a guide for future decisions. The 2022 NFL quarterback draft class serves as a stark warning. For every young talent that breaks through, there are countless others who fall short. The NFL is a league where dreams can come true, but it's also a place where they are often crushed under the weight of expectation and competition. As we look back on this class, the lessons are clear: potential is nothing without performance, and success in the NFL is never guaranteed.